Okay. Yeah. Good morning. Good evening, everyone. So probably we can just start on. Yesterday we are actually looking at the example wherein we were trying to test the program which was reading the data from the flat file and which was used to load the data into the relational table. Since the comparison between the flat file and the relational table uh, flat file and the relational table is a difficult process. I mean, we cannot actually perform the testing process. That's why what we have done, we have created some sample table called as a time underscore flat file, and using a to date, flat file, and we have imported the data. And now, since the data is available in the relational table, it's like a table to table testing. I mean, the same example what we have seen in the previous class, I mean, first example, it will be like the same process, but the data is present in the table that is called as a time underscore flat file, and we will start doing it. So when you look at the smoke testing process, what we have done is we have verified the table is existing in the database or not, and we have also verified the mapping session and workflow of the validity, and we have executed a workflow, and we have verified that workflow completion and the data in the target table. See, basically we have even verified the data in the target table. So now we have to test the data between your source and the target, so to verify that. So how can we do that, and how we can actually test this, that we discuss now. So if you look at the data mapping sheet, see, basically once you understand the data mapping sheet, the writing of the query will become very easy. So instead of time.txt, whatever you have, time.txt, whatever you have, so it's like we have a data present in that time underscore flat file relational table. So if you look at the column mapping between your source and target, it's basically you are reading the date as a character from the flat file, and you're converting that into to underscore date function by using the to underscore date function, which converts the character to the date data type. And that is a first transformation logic that we see here. And if you look at the next one, that is a direct pull, means day of the week, whatever is present in the source, you're directly populating it, and that is called as a direct pull. When you say direct pull, that means you're not modifying anything. It's directly you're taking from the source to the target without transforming that column anywhere. And to derive the other columns like month, year, and the quarter, see what happens is that month, year, and the quarter. So we are going to derive by using a substring function. I hope we understand like substring function, what it does. See, basically, if you look at the source file, it contains a date, day of the week, and the quarter. When you look at this, it represents a date as dd-mon-yyyy format, and from the fourth character, 1, 2, 3, and the fourth character, next three characters, whatever you have, that represents a month. That represents a month, and 4, 3, which represents a month in using this. So, and we'll use a substring of 4, 3 that will give you the month. Similarly, by using the same substring function, if you look at the quarter column, first four the first four digits represents a year, and the last digit represents a quarter. So substring of 1, 4 will give you the quarter result, and substring of 6, 1 will give you the year, that is the last character. So we are actually transforming the data by using some expression functions, and we are also using the another one, that is here, filter transformation. We are interested in loading the data to the target table which are greater than 12/4/1999. So this 12/4/1999, whatever which is greater than date ID is greater than 12/4/1999, that data we want to load. So the filter transformation is just like a where clause in your SQL query. So whenever you see the filter transformation, just replace that where clause condition. Just replace that condition in the where clause. So let me just show you by logging into the designer how the filter transformation works, and how do you take the condition from it, and where can we find out the filter condition in the filter transformation. That for that you have to log into the designer to understand what logic is being used. Okay. So let me just connect to that. And if you look at this, let's say EDW June 10 p.m. EST. Mapping. Let's say that this one is M underscore ODS time. Yeah. So if you look at these normal functions, normal functions, whatever we have used, that are being referred by using a to underscore date, substring, and all those things. And if you look at the filter transformation, so the filter transformation condition generally be mentioned in the properties. You don't need to log in this far. This details anyway, it will be mentioned in the data mapping sheet. From the data mapping sheet, we'll understand this. See, if you see the condition, filter transformation allows the rows which are greater than this time period. Which are greater than this date into the target. If it is less than that, it will not load it. So basically this is a filter condition what we have to use. So now we understand what is the flow and how the transformation has to be applied. So let's start preparing the source query. See, whenever you start with the functional testing, you need to understand how the column mapping is done. You need to understand how the column mapping is done with it. So once you understand, first thing is to start with this is preparing the source query. So how do you prepare the source query? So you know that we have a data now present in the time flat file. So time underscore flat file, whatever it is there. And what are the columns that we have here? So let me just describe for the table what we have created yesterday. So we have a date input, we have a day of the week, date input, comma, day of the week, and you have a quarter. So these are all the three columns what we have. So basically the date input column, whatever you have, it is in the character, and you're changing that into a date data type. So let me just take this entire query as an inline view and write the query to transform the data. So you are converting the date input into that. So to underscore date function is the same thing even in the database. So date input. So what is the format of the date? Format of the date is dd-mon-yyyy format, dd-mon-yyyy. And day of the week is a direct pull. You're not changing anything. So this will give you the day of the week. And the next one is that you need to derive. So let me just call this as an alias as date input again. Day of the week. So next thing is to derive the month. So you're going to use substring of date comma in. So let's say you're retrieving the month from the fourth character. Next three characters represents a month. So just use the month there. And similarly, you need to derive the year and quarter. So substring of, let's say, date input, and let's say you need to derive the year, first 4 digits, sorry, I think from the quarter. This is, we are deriving the year from the quarter. So this is going to be the year. And similarly, you need to derive the quarter column. So the quarter column is nothing but last character in the quarter field. So substring of quarter, comma 6, comma 1, that will give you the um, logic of complete details. And once you convert this, and the next thing is that you need to also include the logic of the filter transformation. Filter transformation. See, filter transformation is just like a where clause in your query. So let me just execute this. So we have, and in the where clause, what you have is, it's basically you're loading the data which is greater than 12/4/1999, where, and so date in, or we have to use a complete thing because that is a character. This is date in is greater than 2 underscore date of. Let's say I'm passing this as a character input here, and which is greater than 12/4/1999. So 12/04/1999 mm/dd/yyyy. I think we have to take the RR format. Let's check this. This is your RR format. Now this is going to be your source query. So when you look at the count of records, it should be matching. 1488 records which are available. So now you have the data. So this complete thing is present. This is your source query. So what we have done is, as per the data mapping sheet, we have converted it, and this is going to be your source query. See, always if you prepare the source transformed query, then the validation of all the other test scenarios becomes easy. So how we are going to do now we have completed it. So we'll start validating the data one by one, so very easily. So the first thing is about the count validation between the source and target. So this is your source query. Now all I need to do is that I need to find out the count of records which were supposed to be loaded into the target. So if I use it, select count of star from so when you try and execute, it should give you the total number of records which are supposed to be loaded into this. So I'm always using most of the time the inline views. I think you guys are all comfortable in understanding that. Okay. So now it has given you the source count of 1488. So if you look at it, this has given you the 1488 as a source count. And now you need to validate the total number of records that are being loaded into the target. So how do you validate? So either you can just use the direct count star function, or you can use column names and then find out. So when you try and use the total number of records present in this is 1489. So there is something wrong with data what we have loaded. There is one record is missing. I think we need to use greater than or equal to, not greater than alone. Let me just try to execute the query again and find out. Greater than or equal to is this one, and even this has returned the 1489 records, which means the data validation between the source and target is matching. So whatever the data validation, so if you look at the query, this is your source count and this is your target count, both are matching, right? So the second one is to validate the duplicate records in the target table. So how do you validate the duplicate records? So you need to know the list of columns. So what are all the columns that you have in the target? So it's basically the date ID, day of the week, month and all. So we don't have any audit columns here. Date ID and day of week, and you have something called as a month as well as a year and year, let's say quarter and all these things. So quarter. So let me just find out the group by grouping the data, find out whether we have a duplicate records here in this or not. So use date ID from date ID. So having count of star greater than 1. One second, please. I think there is a noise coming up. Okay. So when you try and execute this, table or view does not exist. Sorry. So what is the target table? We are verifying data in the target. So try and execute this. So wherein you don't have a duplicate records. So the next one is about the null validation across all the columns. So how do you validate? So it's basically you're going to validate for each and every column, just like the way how we have done for a previous query. So date ID and count of star from, let's say in the ODS time, you're looking for where date ID is null. And similarly, I need to also find out for other columns. So select and you have a date ID and another one is your day of the week. And for this column also I want to find out the count of records from ODS time where day of the week is null. So when you try and execute, so it doesn't have it. Similarly, you have to add even the columns like a quarter, month and year. So whether it has any null values by chance. So if you have 10 columns or 15 columns, you have to go by the same approach and by doing it. Or at the overall process level, you can just look at that and month, let's say the count of records, count of star from, let's say ODS underscore time, where month column is null. Similarly, you have to write for a this quarter and year also. So let me just run. Anyway, we don't have much duplicates, much null values here. Command is not properly ended. So when you try and see this, so there is no null values. So we just want to provide an alias also to avoid the confusion, as this is your column name and the null count. So which you can call it as a null count in the column. So try and execute. So this is all, you do not have anything in this. So this is how we validate the null values. So next important thing is your column level data validation, that is by using the minus square. Data validation by using the minus query. Minus query. So what you have to do is, like, you just take the source query what you have prepared, right? So this is our source query, and we are going to use the source minus target. So let me just use, this is your source query. Let me take out this first for a and write a minus query. What is your target table? So first column which you are going to compare is with the date ID, and the day of the week is a strike pull, and for a substring you have a month, and let's say for a quarter column I think you have quarter directly, and the year is what you have. So from, let's say, ODS underscore time. So if you see this column, data will be compared with this, and then the day of the week, and that, so on. See, one thing is here is that suppose, let's say, in your source you have millions and millions of records, and in the target also you have a million. For running this query, it will take a long time. So in that case, you can actually filter the data in the source, and the same filter can be applied in the target. I mean to say the where clause you can apply it and then run it. Now, if you look at it, you don't have any data mismatches from the source to the target. So basically, it doesn't have any data mismatch between your source and the target. So this is how we have the process. Like now, this is going to be the this completes your column level data validation, and here also the referential integrity is not applicable. See, let's say your ODS time is just like a staging table and you don't have any parent table for it. Referential integrity check is not applicable, and we're not going to validate it. So that completes your functional testing from here. Okay. So if you have any questions, quickly go ahead, and we will proceed further with the integration testing and all those. Right. So basically, when you look at the integration testing or your system testing, so what happens is that in order to get the source file information, or in order to understand where the source file is present, generally in the data mapping sheet itself, they'll provide the, if you're reading the data from path, if you're reading the data from a file, they'll mention the source file path. So as mentioned, so you might need to copy that file to your local machine to validate the data. So how do you copy it, and what kind of tools that you use to copy the file? So this is a server location where you have, and I already shared the inputs regarding how you can access the file name from your VM. So in order to verify the file, basically you can use a putty or you can use a WinSCP. So putty and WinSCP are the two tools what we use to connect to the Unix server or any Linux boxes or AIX and all. It helps you to do that. If you're comfortable with the Unix commands, you can probably use a putty and then verify it. Else you can use a WinSCP. Yesterday we have seen WinSCP. Now we'll see how to log into the putty. See, anyway, you cannot see this practically because you don't have a Unix server to log in. All you need to do is you need to go to the path which I have mentioned yesterday. So server path, just go there and then you can find out the file and import that into your relational table. I mean to say, import that into your file table. So this path, you don't need to log in. Basically here, my local machine and the server machine are different. That's why I'm logging in. So let me just log in to the server 1.81 and use it as, enter the username and password. So basically cd command is like a changing of the directory. So if you say cd /, it will take you to the root directory. And if you want to know in which directory you are in, you need to use a command called as a pwd, print working directory or present working directory. Now you are in the /. So which path you have to go? U01, app, info, server and all. See, Unix is a case sensitive. You can't use uppercase and all. So let me just go to cd U01, and ls will list all the files and directories inside that. And which folder you have to go? I need to go to the app folder. cd app, do ls again. So again I need to go to the info folder, do ls again, cd server, and under the server you have another folder called as a info shade, and under that you have a source files. So do ls, here you have the file called as a time.txt. Suppose if you want to know what are the contents that are present in the file and all, so you can use the command called as a cat. Cat will display the contents of the file. Else what you can do is like you can also use a vi. So vi time.txt. So this will open, and it is like a text editor. You can modify it, you can do that. This is what the data. In case if you want to copy this file to your local machine to import the data into the table, for that you need to use a WinSCP. PuTTY is a command line interface, and WinSCP is a user interface. You can just work just like a Windows. So how would I log into my Unix server box? You need to enter the host name. Either it will be the IP address or the name of the machine, and enter the username and password, what it is there, for copying the file from the server box. Generally, they'll keep it in the server box only, and you have to copy that file to your local machine for understanding and validating the data. So it's just easy, U01 app info server, and then you have something called as info shade, and you have a source files. Suppose let's say you want to copy this file from this to this, just hold your left mouse click button and drag and drop. That's it. Now the file is being copied into my documents, and you can go and verify that. So that's how you can basically copy by using this. Okay, so this is like a WinSCP, and that is your PuTTY in order to get the data from this. So that is how we handle it. And in the system testing, basically first you need to know the path, and you need to continue further based on the parameter file validation as well as a parameter file validation. And parameter file validation, in order to do that you have to verify the session log and the workflow manager. So if you go, so if you look at it, just verify the properties tab. It is not using any parameter here. And similarly, if you go to the workflow and edit the properties, it doesn't using a parameter file, so it's not applicable. So here you're going to validate the another type of task, that is a event wait task validation. So this is another one. Let's say there is something called as in Informatica, this is called as an event wait task. So what is the use of this task is basically that since the job is reading the data from a file, suppose if the file is not arrived within the scheduled time, so what will happen? Your job will fail, saying that file is not available. So this event wait task, what it does is it makes your job to wait till the file is arrived. So basically, if you go and check, this is called as a predefined file watch event. It will be looking for this file. It will be looking for this file in this P01 app info shade source file directory path. Whenever this file is available, then only it will proceed. Otherwise, it will not proceed. That is the use of event wait task. So basically, what you have to verify is that whether it is waiting for the appropriate file and proceeding with the data, or is it not? It's not. Is it waiting or it's not waiting? See, basically now it is pointing to P01 path. So if I run the workflow, what should happen? It should wait, because in the P01 path we don't have that file which is available, and it will not even, probably it will end up in fail. So it will be keep waiting for that path. In that folder it will be checking. Basically we don't have that file in the P01. We have in U01 path, and it is not available. So that is the reason it will be keep waiting. So it's like a predefined event. Whenever that event happens, then only it will proceed. So you can also verify this event task validation. So whether this event task is working fine or not. It's basically whenever the file is not available, it is waiting or not. That's what you can check. And in which folder the file is available and all those things you can verify. And the third one is an email task validation. So basically the session failure, workflow failure, and all those things, you need to verify you need to validate the session failure and the workflow failure notifications, whether it is sending um, appropriate appropriate alerts or the notifications to the support team or not, that you have to validate. And the next one is about the fourth one. If you look at, one second, let me just open that vaccines thing. And command task validation. Basically, command task is not applicable here to do this command task validation. And here, this is not applicable because we don't have any command task validation in using this. And the other one is about the performance testing. So as discussed in the previous example, it will be the same thing. Performance testing will be for the same thing. And we are not going to discuss on and on again for the next examples. It's basically that in the performance testing, you capture all the statistics from your workflow monitor, and you'll basically understand like what is the start time, end time for a last different runs, and then different runs you'll validate. You'll verify that, and accordingly you'll capture the duration and you'll calculate the average time. So how much it is taking. So for that you'll have a template and then do it. And if you look at the regression testing, so regression testing is not applicable here because it's altogether a new one. So we'll talk about the regression testing maybe for only one example. So in this case, regression testing is even not applicable. So that is how you validate the data. So this is like a heterogeneous source, but we have actually driven the testing approach in a different way by importing the flat file into that and then verified the data using this, right? So that is how that's how you complete the data testing for flat file to this, right? So if you have any questions on this example, you can go ahead. Else we'll start with the next one, that is your router transformation.
Hey Karthik, the event wait task validation, is that something that we have to do on a heterogeneous environment, or is that we have to do, on every testing?
See, if the job contains such type of a task, then only it is applicable. If your job does not have any event wait task, basically you don't need to do that. So this workflow diagram, basically sometimes some clients will say that developers to mention in the technical design document, and from the technical design document itself you can understand whether it contains an event task or not. If it contains an event wait predefined event task, you have to validate it. But it is not true for all the examples. So it's basically if the event wait task is there, then only we'll do it.
Thank you, Karthik.
Right. So that completes, yeah.
Karthik, just regarding the Unix thing that you said, like we don't have Putty installed in our machines, right?
No, you don't have any Putty because it's a Windows machine. You don't have Putty installed in your machines.
Okay, so if we have to learn, it's only through your recording sessions, is it, like for the Unix commands or whatever screens that you're showing us?
Yes, because that server access will not be provided for ETL testers, ETL testing trainees. And all you need is just a simple commands. Nobody will stress you the this thing, complete Unix knowledge. It's just that they'll ask you like what are the basic commands that you have used to view the files and all those things that you can understand in the class and you can present yourself.
Oh. Thank you, Karthik.
Okay. Yes. So that completes your second example, how we proceed for it. And the next example is about the ODS underscore employee types. So basically in this example, what we are trying to understand is that we are dividing the data into from one table into three different tables. So that's called as a router transformation. So we'll see one example for this router transformation, how the testing will be done for this router. So when you look at it, see from now on probably I'll not much stress on the smoke testing and how you're going to validate the each and everything. Maybe for this example we'll try to see one more time, and maybe from the next example I don't stress much on the smoke testing and the performance testing and all. So we'll mostly concentrate on the functional testing part and the system testing wherever it is a new thing that we have to learn. Now, in this example, what we are going to do is, like, in order to start with this, first a source is going to be a table that we have ODS underscore employee, and you have a target. Let's say targets are multiple in this case. I mean ODS underscore employee sales, and you also have ODS underscore employee non-sales, ODS underscore employee non-sales, and ODS underscore employee target, I mean ODS underscore employee rookies or something, which we have ODS underscore employee rookies. So sources, and you have targets, and this one is there. So mapping, which is loading the data into it, is you have a mapping that is your M underscore ODS underscore employee types, and the session and all will be same. I mean, and the workflow is going to be something like WF underscore ODS employee types. This is going to be your workflow in the particular folder to verify employee types. So you know the sources, targets, and what and all of that. So let's understand that what is the logic involved in it, and then we'll start with the testing. So the first thing to understand is that, like, let's say in your ODS underscore employee table, you have a column called as a type code. So this type code column will, it'll give you the designation of an employee, whether they belongs to sales or marketing or finance, admin, like that. So now our requirement is that, like, ODS underscore employee table, sales employee should be loaded into ODS underscore employee sales. Whoever belongs to finance, admin, or a manager, they should be loaded into ODS underscore employee sales. And router group condition, like whoever is having the experience less than 2 years, they should be loaded into ODS underscore employee rookie. So this is where we have to understand the conditions and then do it. So it's basically one target, one source table data is being loaded into multiple target tables. So whenever a type code is equal to sales, you're going to load it into ODS underscore employee sales. Whenever a type code is equal to finance, manager, or admin, then we load it into ODS underscore employee non-sales. And this ODS underscore employee rookie, what you have. So let me just start looking at it. So when you say the logic, so whenever you have a type code is equal to sales, and you have another one called as type code, whenever type code is in finance or admin or manager, that should be loaded into this. And when you say experience is less than or equal to 2 years, if the experience of an employee is less than or equal to 2 years, that should be loaded into this. So now you have to start with the testing process. So let's try to understand, mapping, verification, and all those. Let me just open a smoke testing. So for this last example, we'll see how the smoke testing, see again. So first thing is your table existence, like whether the table is present in the this or not. So in order to verify that, here basically we have three target tables, isn't it? Like, so if you check select star from all underscore tables, where table name in, so we have three tables totally. Let me just include three of them, and owner is equal to TDBU. So what is the first table? ODS underscore employee sales and ODS underscore employee non-sales, ODS underscore employee rookies. So try and execute this. So we have three tables which are present. Table existence, all the three target tables are present in this. So the second one is that you're going to verify the mapping session and the workflow. So let me just verify that. So we have ODS underscore employee types, and it is present over here. And similarly, you need to verify the workflow and a session. So WF underscore ODS employee types, you have a workflow, and then the session is also available. So we can verify this. I'm just checking whether this truncate is not enabled. Okay. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, I'll just use another one for executing. So let me just run the workflow and show you the completion of, well, about it. And this is your ODS underscore employee types. I mean, anyway, I've just run the different workflow to load the data, basically, to show you the completion of the workflow. If you go and verify the session log, how do you verify the session log? Just right click on it and get the session log and go through the right click on the session and get through this, and then you can verify all the queries, errors, and everything. So you can also find out what source query has been used by Informatica to read the data from source table. So this is a source query used by Informatica to read the data. So this part also you can understand from it. So ODS underscore employee types flat file, and you can also verify the workflow log, and we have seen the completion of the workflow. So if you look at it, so my session and everything is there, and we have also seen the workflow completion, whether the workflow is completed successfully for that or not. And the fourth one is to verify the data in the target tables. So verify the data in target tables. So how do you verify? So just by querying all of them quickly. So let's say select star from ODS underscore employee sales, ODS underscore employee sales, and similarly you need to know the non-sales employees, ODS, and we are just verifying to proceed with the functional testing whether the data is available or not, that we are checking it here. And ODS underscore employee rookies. So this way we'll verify, and anyway we have a data available in these tables. So that is how you verify the smoke testing and proceed further on the functional testing part. So in order to do the functional testing, the first one is about the data model validation. So you need to validate the table as per the data model. table structure as per the data model what you use. So look at the data model and validate so what and all are the things that you validate: column names, number of columns, basically columns, name of columns, and the spellings, constraints, and data types. So all these things you will validate just by describing this one. So let me just describe one. So how do you describe the table? So that is your ODS underscore employee sales, that what it is present in this. Try and execute and see how it is present. So employee ID, name, date, hide, and the type code. So that is how you use this thing, ODS underscore employee sales, which is validate. So the second one is to verify the source queries and validate the data. So second one is to start with your source query preparation, and then you start validating the data for so you basically have to prepare 3 source queries. So you're validating the data against the 3 different target tables. So for this target table, you'll prepare 1 source query. For this target table, you'll prepare another source query, and for this target table, you'll prepare another source query. So I'll try to show you for one example how it works, and probably you can take it for a next example. It's just that only this source query condition will be changed, and then we will proceed it. So let me just understand like how the mapping logic is being defined here. So if you look at the router transformation, so router is just like dividing the data into multiple groups. So if you have to know what conditions have been used to divide the data into these groups, just edit it. When you go to the groups, here they'll mention the condition. So if the type code is equal to sales, it is going to sales group, and equal to manager and all, it is going to this. And you're just converting this into sales. You're populating the sales data into sales, non-sales data into here, and then the rookies data into the rookies in using this. Now let's try to prepare. The first one is pretty simple. If the employee is having the designation as sales, it should go to the sales one. So what is the source query in that? It's basically you have the same columns. I mean, if you look at the structure of the tables, it is same. So let's say select from what is your table, ODS underscore employee. It is available in the target schema. So just directly write the condition, where clause condition. So what is it? It is type code is equal to sales. Type code is equal to sales. And if you look at it, what are the columns that you have? Employee ID column, and then the name, date hide column, date hide, and you also have another column called as a type code. So this is a source query 1. This is like a query 1 for a target. And if you try and see this, you have to anyway validate the data. We'll just take a look at it. So this is your source query 1. So you should have 14 records. 14 records are available. And query 2, what it says? Query 2 is basically if the employee type code is basically into this, where if it is into multiple things, maybe the manager, admin, so that is what they have written, admin, or finance. So if it belongs to these things, so all these groups should go to the non-sales table. And Q3 is basically if an employee is having a experience less than 2 years. So how do you validate? That's based on the date hide column, not on the type code column. So if you look at this, so where I want to find out the date difference or the month difference, you can use months between. I think you have a function called as a months between. Months between. See, I'm going to pass the sys date and the date hide. So if it is less than or equal to 24 months, instead of 2 years, I'm just making it as 24 months and try to use it. There are no employees. So this is your Q3 query. So you're prepared basically the 3 source queries, and in the tomorrow's class, we will actually validate how to validate this count, basically and the other type of data validations, whatever we have. We'll continue from there. So we've just prepared a source query, and in case if you have any questions so far on this example, you can go ahead now, and we'll continue this from here in the tomorrow's class. Yeah, that's it I have for the day, and